The repair station Eclipse 7 floated silently in the vast emptiness of space, its metal frame gleaming faintly under the distant light of a dying star. Orbiting a jagged asteroid belt, it was a place where broken ships came to be fixed, a sanctuary for travelers from all corners of the galaxy. But something about this station was unusual. It wasn't just human ships that docked here. Alien vessels of every shape and size arrived regularly, seeking repairs that even their advanced technologies couldn't handle. Jacob Miller stood on the observation deck, his arms crossed as he stared out at the latest arrival. His ship was massive, sleek, and unmistakably Valith, a species known for their cold demeanor and disdain toward humans. Its surface shimmered like liquid silver, reflecting the dim glow of the station's exterior lights. Jacob sighed, shaking his head. "Another one," he muttered under his breath. Behind him, Rachel Dawson leaned against the doorway, her dark hair tied back in a loose ponytail. "You'd think they'd figure it out by now," she said with a small smile. "We're not exactly miracle workers." Jacob turned to face her, his expression thoughtful. "Maybe that's the point. They don't want miracles. They just want results. And somehow we always deliver." Rachel raised an eyebrow. "Deliver? More like scrape by. Half the time, we're winging it with spare parts and duct tape." Jacob chuckled but didn't argue. She wasn't wrong. The team at Eclipse 7 often had to improvise when dealing with alien tech, which was usually far more advanced than anything humans had ever built. Yet somehow they managed to get the job done. Whether it was patching up a Kralak scout ship or reconfiguring the Zanari engine, the engineers of Eclipse 7 had earned a reputation across the galaxy. No matter how impossible the problem, they found a way to solve it. But there was something unsettling about all of this. Why did these aliens keep coming back? Human technology was primitive compared to theirs, so why bother docking at a human station instead of relying on their own resources? Jacob had asked himself that question countless times, but he'd never found a satisfying answer. As if sensing his thoughts, Rachel stepped closer to the window. "Do you think they trust us?" she asked quietly. Jacob frowned. "Trust? I doubt it. Most of these species wouldn't spit on us if we were on fire. No, it's something else. Maybe desperation, or maybe—" He trailed off, unsure how to finish the sentence. "Or maybe what?" Rachel pressed. "Maybe they need us for something bigger than repairs," Jacob said finally. "Something they can't, or won't, do themselves." Before Rachel could respond, the intercom crackled to life. A calm, robotic voice announced the completion of docking procedures for the Valith ship. Moments later, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed through the corridor outside. Jacob straightened up, his curiosity piqued. The Valith rarely interacted directly with humans, unless absolutely necessary. Whatever they wanted this time, it had to be important. "You ready for this?" Rachel asked, grabbing her datapad. "As ready as I'll ever be," Jacob replied, cracking his knuckles. Together, they headed toward the airlock. Unaware that this particular repair job would set off a chain of events neither of them could have anticipated. When the airlock doors hissed open, revealing the towering form of the Valith ambassador, Jacob felt a chill run down his spine. The alien's elongated limbs and sharp features made it look almost insect-like, its glowing eyes scanning the room with an intensity that was hard to ignore. Without speaking, it handed over a small device containing the specifications for the repairs. Jacob accepted it cautiously, already dreading what he might find when he plugged it into the diagnostic system. But deep down, he couldn't deny the thrill of the challenge. After all, solving problems was what Eclipse 7 did best. Even if those problems sometimes came wrapped in mysteries, they weren't meant to unravel. The next morning, the quiet hum of Eclipse 7 was interrupted by the sudden arrival of another ship. Unlike the sleek and polished vessels that usually docked at the station, this one looked like it had been through a war. Its hull was scorched and dented, with patches of exposed wiring glowing faintly in places. Jacob and Rachel watched from the observation deck as the battered craft drifted into position, its movements sluggish and uneven. "It's Kralax," Rachel said, checking the identification signal. "Looks like they've seen better days." Jacob nodded, his brow furrowing. The Kralax were an insectoid species known for their aggressive nature and advanced technology. Seeing one of their ships in such bad shape was unusual. Something big must have happened. A few minutes later, the airlock doors opened, and a lone Kralax pilot emerged. It moved slowly, its segmented limbs trembling slightly as it stepped onto the platform. Its exoskeleton was cracked in several places, and smoke trailed faintly from its damaged armor. In one claw-like hand, it held a small translator device, which buzzed to life as it tried to speak. "Repair. Must repair," the device croaked in broken English. Rachel approached cautiously, her hands raised to show she meant no harm. "We'll help," she said gently. "Can you tell us what happened?" The Kralax hesitated, its multifaceted eyes darting around the room before focusing on Rachel. After a long pause, it tapped a series of commands into the translator. "Attacked. Ambush. Fleeing." Jacob exchanged a glance with Rachel. Ambush? By whom? And why would someone target a Kralax ship? They didn't have time to ask more questions. The pilot collapsed suddenly, its body going limp as it hit the floor. Rachel quickly called for medical assistance, while Jacob signaled the engineering team to begin inspecting the ship. Inside the vessel, things only got stranger. The interior was a chaotic mess of wires, panels, and alien machinery, much of it fused together or melted beyond recognition. But amidst the destruction, Jacob noticed something odd. Certain components appeared to be modified in ways he'd never seen before. These weren't just standard upgrades. They looked experimental, almost makeshift. "What do you think?" Mia Carter asked, joining him in the cramped cockpit. She was the station's youngest engineer, but also one of its brightest, with a knack for understanding alien tech. Jacob pointed to a cluster of glowing circuits embedded in the control panel. "These aren't Kralax parts. Look at the energy signatures. They're too erratic. Someone else tampered with this ship." Mia frowned, pulling out her scanner to get a closer look. As the device beeped and whirred, she gasped softly. "This isn't possible." "What is it?" Jacob asked, leaning in. "These modifications match patterns we've seen before in old Earth artifacts." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "But those are thousands of years old. How could the Kralax have access to that kind of tech?" Before Jacob could respond, the scanner picked up something else, a hidden compartment tucked away behind a panel. Carefully prying it open, they discovered a small data core, its surface etched with strange symbols that glowed faintly in the dim light. "This wasn't part of the original design," Jacob muttered, turning the core over in his hands. "It's a message, or maybe a warning." Mia took the core and plugged it into her portable terminal. Lines of code scrolled across the screen, indecipherable at first glance. "We need to take this to the lab," she said urgently. "If this really is connected to ancient Earth tech, we might be dealing with something bigger than we realized." As they left the ship, neither of them noticed the faint shimmer of movement near the airlock. A tiny drone, no larger than a coin, hovering silently in the shadows. It recorded everything, its lenses flashing briefly before vanishing into the ventilation system. Back in the lab, Mia worked tirelessly to decrypt the data core, while Jacob paced the room, lost in thought. What had the Kralax been running from? And why did their ship contain traces of technology that predated humanity itself? The answers felt tantalizingly close yet frustratingly out of reach. Hours passed before Maya finally spoke. "I found something," she said, her voice tinged with both excitement and unease. On the monitor, a set of coordinates flickered to life, pointing to a distant star system far beyond human territory. Alongside them were fragments of text written in multiple alien languages, each translation carrying the same ominous tone. Asterisk danger. Do not approach asterisk. Jacob stared at the screen, his mind racing. Whatever was waiting at those coordinates, it wasn't meant to be found. And judging by the condition of the Krarlak ship, whoever, or whatever, was guarding it wasn't playing games. The alarms blared loudly, echoing through the narrow corridors of Eclipse 7. Red warning lights flashed on the walls, casting an eerie glow over the station. Jacob and Mia exchanged a quick glance before rushing out of the lab, their footsteps pounding against the metal floor. Rachel's voice crackled over the intercom, sharp and urgent. Unidentified fleet approaching. All personnel to secure locations. Jacob grabbed Mia's arm as they ran. Did you lock down the data core? She nodded quickly. It's encrypted and hidden in the system. No one can access it without my codes. Good, Jacob said, though his tone betrayed his unease. Whoever was arriving clearly wasn't here for routine repairs. The timing was too suspicious. When they reached the observation deck, Rachel was already there, her fingers flying across the control panel. On the large viewport screen, a fleet of ships loomed ominously in the distance. Their designs were unmistakable, sharp, angular, and menacing. These were Korthan vessels, belonging to a species feared for their aggression and dominance in the galaxy. They're hailing us, Rachel said, her voice tight. What do we do? Answer them, Jacob replied, stepping closer to the console. Let's see what they want. The screen flickered, and the face of a Korthan commander appeared. His features were harsh, with deep-set eyes glowing like embers and jagged ridges running along his skull. His name translated roughly to Shadowclaw, and his tone left no room for negotiation. You have a Krarlak ship docked at your station, he growled, his voice distorted by the translator. Hand it over immediately. Rachel hesitated, glancing at Jacob. He gave her a subtle nod, signaling her to buy some time. Clearing her throat, she responded calmly. The Krarlak ship is under quarantine due to potential contamination. We cannot allow anyone aboard until our scans are complete. Shadowclaw's glowing eyes narrowed, his expression unreadable. For a moment, the only sound was the faint hum of the station's systems. Then, with a low rumble, he spoke again. Very well, but do not delay. If I find you withholding anything, there will be consequences. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the three humans staring at the screen in tense silence. Rachel let out a shaky breath. That went better than expected. For now, Jacob muttered. He turned to Mia. How much progress have you made on decrypting the data core? Not enough, she admitted, but I did manage to isolate part of the message. It mentioned something about a key, whatever that means. A key? Rachel echoed, frowning. A key to what? Jacob shook his head. I don't know, but if the Korthan are involved, it's probably dangerous. We need to figure this out fast. As they discussed their next steps, Ethan Cole entered the room. A junior technician with sandy blonde hair and a nervous demeanor, Ethan had always been eager to prove himself. Today, however, his presence felt off. His hands twitched slightly, and he avoided meeting anyone's gaze. What's going on? Ethan asked, trying to sound casual. The whole station's on high alert. We're dealing with it, Jacob said firmly. Just stay out of the way and keep working on your assignments. Ethan nodded, lingering for a moment longer than necessary before leaving. As soon as he was gone, Rachel crossed her arms. Something about him seems wrong. Jacob frowned. You think he's involved? I'm not sure, Rachel admitted, but we should keep an eye on him. Meanwhile, in the shadows of the station's maintenance tunnels, Ethan activated a small communication device. His voice trembled as he whispered into it. They know something. There's a data core. They are trying to decrypt it. On the other end, a gravelly voice responded. Find out what's on that core. And if you can't, sabotage their efforts. The Korthan reward loyalty and punish failure. Ethan swallowed hard, clutching the device tightly. He hadn't signed up for this. When he'd agreed to share information with the Korthan, they'd promised him wealth and protection. But now, standing between two powerful forces, he realized just how far out of his depth he truly was. Back in the lab, Mia worked tirelessly, her focus unwavering despite the chaos around her. Piece by piece, the fragments of the message began to come together. Coordinates, warnings, and finally, a single phrase that sent chills down her spine. Asterisk, the forge awaits asterisk. What does that mean? Jacob asked when she showed him. Mia shook her head. I don't know, but it sounds like whoever built it didn't want it found. Before they could speculate further, the station shuddered violently. Alarms screamed louder than before, and the lights flickered. Shadowclaw's fleet had grown impatient. They're attacking, Rachel shouted from the observation deck. The station shook again, the impact of the Korthen weapons rattling every bolt and panel. Warning sirens blared, their piercing wails adding to the chaos. Jacob, Rachel, and Mia scrambled to stay on their feet as another blast struck Eclipse 7. The lights flickered wildly, and sparks rained down from a damaged console in the lab. We can't hold them off forever, Rachel shouted over the noise. Their shields are too strong. Jacob clenched his jaw, his mind racing. They needed a plan, and fast. Mia, how much time do you need to finish decrypting the data core? Mia didn't look up from her screen, her fingers flying across the keyboard. 10 minutes, maybe 15. But if they breach the station before then? They won't, Jacob interrupted firmly. Turning to Rachel, he said, we need to stall them. Can you keep Shadowclaw talking? Rachel hesitated, glancing at the viewport where the Korthen fleet loomed like predators circling their prey. I'll try, she said finally, but I don't know how long I can keep him distracted. Jacob nodded. Do what you can. Mia and I will handle the rest. As Rachel hurried back to the communications panel, Jacob helped Mia secure the lab. He locked the doors and activated the emergency barriers, hoping it would buy them some time. Outside, the sound of explosions grew louder, and the station groaned under the strain of the assault. In the control room, Rachel opened a channel to Shadowclaw's flagship. Her hands trembled slightly, but her voice was steady. Commander Shadowclaw, we're still running contamination checks on the Krulax ship. Attacking us now endangers everyone aboard your fleet. Shadowclaw's face filled the screen, his glowing eyes burning with impatience. Your delays are unacceptable, he growled. If you do not comply within the next 5 minutes, my forces will board your station. Rachel swallowed hard but kept her composure. Understood. But consider this. If the Krulax ship is truly contaminated, wouldn't you rather let us confirm it first? No one wants an outbreak spreading through your fleet. For a moment, Shadowclaw said nothing. Then, with a low rumble, he replied, Very well. 5 minutes. Use them wisely. Back in the lab, Mia worked feverishly, sweat beading on her forehead. The decrypted fragments of the message began to form a clearer picture, coordinates leading to a mysterious structure deep in uncharted space. Alongside them were warnings about its power and danger. Whatever the forge was, it wasn't meant to be tampered with lightly. We're close, Mia muttered, her eyes glued to the screen. Just a little more. Suddenly, the door to the lab shuddered violently. Someone, or something, was trying to break in. Jacob grabbed a metal pipe from a nearby workbench, ready to defend the room if necessary. Hurry, Mia, he urged. We've got company. Outside the lab, Ethan Cole stood nervously, holding a stolen plasma cutter. His hand shook as he aimed it at the lock. The Korthen had ordered him to retrieve the data core, and failure wasn't an option. But as the door resisted his efforts, doubt crept into his mind. Was he really willing to betray his crew for promises of wealth? Before he could act, Rachel appeared behind him, her expression cold and accusing. What are you doing, Ethan? Ethan froze, guilt flashing across his face. I didn't have a choice, he stammered. They threatened me. Rachel stepped closer, her voice cutting like steel. You think they'll protect you. Once they get what they want, they'll throw you away like trash. Ethan lowered the plasma cutter, tears welling in his eyes. I'm sorry, he whispered. I just wanted to help Earth. You want to help? Rachel snapped. Then start by telling me everything you told them. Ethan nodded quickly, spilling out details about the Corthan's plans and their interest in the Kralax ship. Rachel listened intently, her mind working furiously. When he finished, she grabbed his arm. "Come with me. We're ending this now." Meanwhile, in the lab, Mia let out a triumphant gasp. "Got it," she exclaimed. On the screen, a map displayed the location of the mysterious structure, along with more warnings about its destructive potential. Jacob leaned over her shoulder, studying the information. "This changes everything," he said grimly. "If the Corthan find this place, they'll use it to dominate the galaxy." "And if we destroy it?" Maya asked quietly. Jacob hesitated. Destroying something so powerful might be the safest option, but it also felt wrong. There was knowledge here, ancient and valuable. Humanity could learn so much from it. The group stood in tense silence, their eyes fixed on the glowing map displayed on the lab screen. The coordinates pointed to a distant star system far beyond human territory, deep in a region of space labeled as unexplored in every known galactic chart. Alongside the map were fragmented warnings written in multiple alien languages, all conveying the same ominous message. Asterisk, do not approach. Danger lies ahead, asterisk. Jacob broke the silence first. "We can't just sit here and do nothing," he said, his voice firm. "If the Corthan find this place before we do, it could mean disaster for everyone." Mia nodded, her expression thoughtful. "But we don't even know what the Forge is. For all we know, it could be worse than the Corthan." Rachel crossed her arms, her gaze steady. "Then we need to find out. Fast. If we can figure out what it does, and how to control it, we might have a chance to stop them." Ethan shifted uncomfortably in the corner, still reeling from his betrayal. "What about me?" he asked quietly. "I messed up. I caused this." "You did," Rachel said bluntly. "But right now, we need all the help we can get. So unless you want to spend the rest of your life locked in a storage bay, you'll earn back our trust." Ethan swallowed hard but nodded. "Tell me what to do." Jacob turned to Mia. "Can you send a probe to those coordinates? Something small and fast that won't draw attention." She hesitated, tapping at her keyboard. "It's risky. If the Corthan detect it, they'll know we're onto them." "We don't have a choice," Jacob replied. "We need answers, and we need them now." Mia worked quickly, programming a small reconnaissance drone and launching it toward the mysterious location. The probe disappeared into the void of space, its signal faint but steady. Hours passed as they waited anxiously for any sign of information. Finally, the drone transmitted its findings. On the screen, a massive structure came into view, a colossal alien megastructure floating silently in the darkness. Its surface was covered in intricate patterns and glowing symbols, some of which matched the markings on the data core. Towers and spires jutted out at odd angles, giving it an otherworldly appearance. "What is that?" Ethan whispered, his voice filled with awe. "It's a factory," Maya said, her tone hushed. "An ancient one. Look at the scale. It's big enough to build entire fleets." Jacob frowned, studying the image closely. But why would someone abandon something like this? And why leave warnings? Rachel stepped closer, her brow furrowed. Maybe whoever built it realized it was too dangerous to keep, or maybe they couldn't control it. Before anyone could respond, alarms blared again throughout the station. Shadowclaw's fleet had resumed its attack, this time with even greater intensity. The Corthan were done waiting. "They're breaking through the outer defenses," Rachel shouted, checking the security feeds. "We've got minutes, tops." Jacob clenched his fists, his mind racing. They couldn't stay here, not if they wanted to survive. "We need to leave. Now." Mia grabbed the data core and secured it in a protective case. "What about the Kralax ship? Shouldn't we destroy it? If the Corthan get their hands on it?" "No time," Jacob interrupted. "They're already inside the station. We'll deal with it later." As they prepared to evacuate, Ethan spoke up. Where are we going? Back to Earth. Jacob shook his head. Not yet. First, we go to the forge. Whatever secrets it holds, they belong to us, not the Korthen. Rachel led the way to a small shuttle docked in the station's lower bay. It wasn't much, but it was fast and equipped with basic weapons. As they boarded, the sounds of battle grew louder, echoing through the corridors. Korthen soldiers were close, their heavy footsteps reverberating against the metal walls. Once inside the shuttle, Jacob took the pilot's seat, his hands gripping the controls tightly. Hold on, he said grimly. This is going to get rough. The engines roared to life, and the shuttle launched into space just as Shadowclaw's forces breached the final barricades. Behind them, Eclipse 7 shuddered under the weight of the assault, its once proud frame crumbling under enemy fire. As they sped away, Rachel glanced back at the station, her heart heavy. We left everything behind. Jacob met her gaze, his expression resolute. Not everything. We've got the data core and a chance to fight back. That's more than most people get. Ahead of them, the vast emptiness of space stretched endlessly, hiding both danger and opportunity. Whatever awaited them at the forge, one thing was certain. Humanity's fate rested in their hands. The shuttle raced through the darkness of space, its engines humming softly as it followed the coordinates to the forge. Inside, the mood was tense but focused. Jacob sat at the controls, his eyes scanning the navigation panel while keeping a close watch for any sign of pursuit. So far, they were alone, but everyone knew it wouldn't last long. Rachel leaned over Maya's shoulder, watching as she analyzed the drone's data on her portable terminal. The images of the megastructure were clearer now, revealing intricate details that sent chills down their spines. Rows of massive machines lined the interior, each one pulsing faintly with energy. Strange symbols glowed along the walls, shifting and changing like living things. What do you think those symbols mean? Rachel asked quietly. Maya frowned, zooming in on one section of the structure. I'm not sure, but they look like instructions or warnings. Some of them match patterns we've seen in ancient Earth artifacts. Jacob glanced back at them briefly. You're saying this place might be connected to humanity somehow. It's possible, Mia admitted. But if it is, why would aliens leave clues about it? And why build something so advanced? Ethan shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Maybe they wanted someone else to find it later, like a test or something. Rachel shook her head. Or maybe a trap. The thought hung heavy in the air. None of them spoke for a moment, each lost in their own worries. Finally, Jacob broke the silence. Whatever it is, we'll deal with it when we get there. For now, let's focus on staying alive. As they approached the star system, the shuttle's sensors picked up movement nearby. A fleet of ships emerged from behind an asteroid field. Korthen vessels, led by Shadowclaw's flagship. Their sleek, angular designs glinted menacingly in the light of a distant sun. They found us, Rachel said, her voice tight. Jacob gritted his teeth, adjusting the shuttle's course. We're faster than them. If we can reach the forge first, we might have a chance. But the Korthen weren't giving up easily. Plasma bolts streaked past the shuttle, narrowly missing its hull. Alarms blared as the ship rocked violently under enemy fire. Jacob pushed the engines harder, sweat beading on his forehead. Hold on, he shouted. Inside the cabin, Mia clutched the data core tightly, her knuckles white. Ethan gripped the edge of his seat, his face pale with fear. Rachel monitored the sensors, calling out updates. They're closing in. 2 more minutes until we reach the structure. The seconds ticked by agonizingly slowly. Another blast hit the shuttle, sending sparks flying across the cockpit. Jacob cursed under his breath, fighting to keep the ship steady. Come on, come on. Finally, the megastructure loomed into view, a towering colossus of metal and light, dwarfing everything around it. Jacob guided the shuttle toward a narrow opening in its side, slipping inside just as another volley of fire erupted behind them. The Korthen fleet followed, their ships too large to fit through the entrance. They hovered outside, weapons trained on the structure. Once inside, the group exhaled in relief, but only for a moment. The interior was eerily silent, save for the faint hum of machinery. Glowing panels illuminated the vast chamber, casting strange shadows on the walls. In the center stood a massive control console, covered in the same shifting symbols they'd seen earlier. "This is it," Mia whispered, stepping forward cautiously. "The heart of the forge." Jacob joined her, studying the console. "Can you figure out how to activate it?" "I'll try," she replied, pulling out her scanner. As she worked, drones began to emerge from the walls, their lenses flashing as they scanned the intruders. One of them hovered near Rachel, who held up her hands defensively. "Easy there, little guy." To everyone's surprise, the drones didn't attack. Instead, they seemed to retreat, almost as if acknowledging their presence. "They recognize us," Maya said, her voice tinged with awe. "Like we're supposed to be here." Before anyone could respond, the console lit up brightly, projecting a holographic map of the galaxy. Lines of code scrolled across the display, showing pathways and connections between stars. At the center of it all was Earth, glowing faintly among the countless dots. Jacob stared at the image, his mind racing. This isn't just a factory. It's a network, a way to connect entire civilizations. Rachel stepped closer, her expression grim. "And if the Korthan get their hands on it, they'll use it to dominate every world out there." Mia finished her adjustments and turned to the group. "We need to decide what to do next. Activate it, destroy it, or leave it alone." Jacob hesitated, looking at each of them. Whatever choice they made would change everything, for better or worse. The group stood in silence, staring at the glowing hologram of the galaxy projected above the control console. The weight of their decision hung heavily in the air. Activate the forge, destroy it, or leave it untouched. Each option carried risks they weren't sure they could handle. Jacob finally spoke, his voice steady but tinged with urgency. "If we activate it, we might unlock something powerful, something that could help us fight back against the Korthan. But if we can't control it..." He trailed off, letting the unspoken danger hang in the air. Rachel crossed her arms, her expression thoughtful. "And if we destroy it, we'd stop the Korthan from using it, but we'd also lose whatever knowledge is here. This could be humanity's chance to understand ancient technology." Mia nodded slowly, her eyes still scanning the console. "There's no guarantee we can destroy it safely, either. If this place is as advanced as it seems, blowing it up might cause more harm than good." Ethan shifted nervously, glancing around the chamber. "What about leaving it alone? Just walking away?" "That won't work," Jacob said firmly. "The Korthan are already outside. They'll find a way in eventually. Leaving it means handing it over to them on a silver platter." Rachel sighed, rubbing her temples. "So we're stuck between bad choices. Great." Mia straightened up, her fingers hovering over the console. "Maybe there's another way. Instead of activating everything, what if we reprogram it? Limit its function so it can't be used for war." Jacob raised an eyebrow. "You think you can do that?" "I can try," Maya replied, determination in her voice. "But I'll need time. And backup. If the Korthan break in while I'm working, I'll need someone to hold them off." Jacob glanced at Rachel, who gave him a small nod. "I'll stay with you," she said to Mia. "Jacob and Ethan can handle security." Ethan's eyes widened in panic. "Me? I'm not exactly a fighter." "You don't have to fight," Jacob said sharply. "Just keep watch and warn us if anything happens. Can you do that?" Ethan swallowed hard but nodded. "Yeah, I can do that." With the plan set, Mia got to work. She tapped commands into the console, her movements quick but precise. Lines of alien code scrolled across the screen as she rewrote sections of the program, redirecting power flows and disabling certain systems. The hum of machinery grew louder, echoing through the chamber. Meanwhile, Jacob and Ethan took positions near the entrance, keeping an eye out for any sign of the Korthen. Outside, the enemy fleet continued to circle the structure, their weapons trained on the walls. Every few minutes, plasma bolts struck the exterior, shaking the ground beneath their feet. "They're trying to get in," Ethan muttered nervously, clutching a small handheld scanner he'd grabbed from the shuttle. "How long does Mia need?" "As long as it takes," Jacob replied grimly. "Don't rush her." Inside the chamber, Rachel helped Mia by double-checking her calculations. "This part looks good," Rachel said, pointing to a section of the code. "But what about the defense systems? If they're still active, the Korthen will walk right in." Mia frowned, adjusting another setting. "I'm disabling them now. Hopefully, that'll buy us some time." The chamber fell silent after the Korthen retreated, the hum of machinery filling the void left by their departure. Jacob stood near the entrance, his eyes scanning the damaged wall where the enemy had broken through. The drones that had protected them now hovered silently, their lenses dimmed as if standing guard. Rachel approached Mia, who was still examining the console. "Do you think they'll come back?" she asked quietly. Mia shrugged, her fingers brushing over the glowing symbols. "They might. But even if they do, the forge won't work for them anymore. I locked it down tight." "That's assuming we did the right thing," Jacob said, turning to face the group. His tone was heavy with doubt. "We just took control of something bigger than any of us. What happens when others find out? Humans playing with alien tech isn't exactly a recipe for peace." Rachel crossed her arms, her expression thoughtful. "You're right. This is dangerous. But leaving it in the hands of someone like Shadowclaw would have been worse. At least this way we can try to use it responsibly." Ethan shifted uncomfortably, still holding the scanner he brought from the shuttle. "Responsible how? We don't even know what this thing can really do." Mia tapped a few commands into the console, pulling up new displays. "It's not just a factory, it's a builder. It can create almost anything, from ships to weapons to entire colonies. The original builders must have used it to expand across the stars." Jacob frowned. "And look what happened to them. Whoever built this place didn't survive to see its full potential. Maybe there's a reason for that." Rachel stepped closer to him, her voice soft but firm. "Then we learn from their mistakes. We adapt. That's what humans do best, remember." Jacob didn't respond immediately. Instead, he walked toward the holographic map of the galaxy, which still floated above the console. Earth glowed faintly at the center, surrounded by countless other worlds. "If we use this to build defenses around human colonies," he said slowly, "we could protect ourselves without starting a war. Defensive shields, early warning systems, things that make us harder targets." Mia nodded, typing rapidly. "I already started reprogramming it for that purpose. Anything it builds will focus on protection, not aggression." "But what about everyone else?" Ethan blurted out. "What happens when other species realize we're using the forge to help only humans?" Rachel sighed, glancing at the others. "That's the risk we take. If we share this technology, we lose control of it. If we keep it to ourselves, we alienate allies and invite enemies. There's no perfect answer." Jacob clenched his fists, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. "Maybe there doesn't need to be a perfect answer. Maybe we just do what we can with what we've got, and deal with the consequences later." As they debated, the drones suddenly came to life again, their lenses flashing urgently. A low rumble echoed through the chamber, and the walls began to shift. Panels slid open, revealing hidden compartments filled with strange tools and materials. "What's happening?" Ethan asked nervously, backing away. Mia studied the console, her brow furrowed. "It's responding to our presence, like it's testing us." "Testing us for what?" Rachel demanded. Before anyone could answer, the ground trembled violently. Outside, the Korthen fleet had returned, firing relentlessly at the structure. Plasma bolts struck the outer walls, causing chunks of metal to collapse inward. Dust and debris filled the air as alarms blared inside the chamber. "They're not giving up," Jacob muttered, grabbing a fallen piece of machinery to use as a makeshift weapon. "Everyone, brace yourselves." The Korthan soldiers poured into the chamber once more, their weapons drawn. Shadowclaw led the charge, his glowing eyes burning with fury. "You cannot stop destiny," he roared, aiming his plasma rifle at the group. Before he could fire, the drones surged forward again, forming a protective barrier. Their lenses pulsed brightly, emitting a high-frequency wave that forced the Korthan to retreat once more. This time, however, the drones didn't stop. They advanced, driving the invaders back toward the entrance. Shadowclaw snarled, shouting orders to his troops. "Fall back. Regroup outside." As the last of the Korthan disappeared, the drones returned to their positions, their lenses dimming once more. The chamber grew quiet again, save for the distant hum of machinery. "We can't stay here," Rachel said urgently. "If they regroup and attack again, we might not be so lucky." Jacob nodded, glancing at the others. "Agreed. Let's grab what we can and head back to the shuttle. We've done all we can here, for now." The group moved quickly through the damaged corridors of the forge, their footsteps echoing in the eerie silence. Behind them, the structure groaned under the strain of the Korthan assault, its walls shaking with each impact. Dust and debris rained down from above, making the path treacherous. Jacob led the way, his makeshift weapon at the ready, while Rachel kept a close eye on the scanner for any signs of movement. Mia clutched the portable drive tightly, her mind racing with thoughts of what they'd just done. They had altered the forge, redirecting its purpose to focus on defense rather than destruction. But would it be enough? Could humanity handle such power responsibly, or would it eventually lead to their downfall? Ethan trailed behind, his face pale with fear. Every loud crash or distant rumble made him jump, his grip tightening on the scanner. "Do you think they'll follow us?" he whispered, glancing nervously over his shoulder. "They might," Jacob replied grimly. "But if we can get to the shuttle and lose them in the asteroid field, we've got a shot." Rachel nodded, her expression tense. "Let's just hope the engines hold up. That last attack did a number on them." When they finally reached the shuttle, Mia immediately set to work checking the systems. "Engines are still online," she reported after a moment, relief evident in her voice. "But the hull's taken some damage. We'll need to move fast." Jacob climbed into the pilot's seat, his hands gripping the controls. "Strap in. This is going to be rough." As the engines roared to life, the shuttle lifted off, speeding toward the narrow exit that led out of the forge. Outside, the Korthan fleet waited, their ships forming a tight blockade. Shadowclaw's flagship loomed in the center, its weapons trained directly on the fleeing shuttle. "They're firing," Rachel shouted as plasma bolts streaked past the cockpit, narrowly missing the hull. Jacob pushed the engines harder, weaving the shuttle between the asteroids in an attempt to evade the enemy fire. The vessel rocked violently with each near miss, sparks flying inside the cabin. Ethan gripped the edge of his seat, his knuckles white. "Can't this thing go any faster?" "Not without falling apart." Jacob snapped, his eyes locked on the navigation panel. He guided the shuttle into a tight spiral around a massive asteroid, using it as cover. For a brief moment, the barrage stopped as the Korthan adjusted their aim. "We're clear," Rachel called out, watching the sensors. "They're regrouping." "Hold on," Jacob warned, pushing the shuttle into a steep dive. The ship hurtled downward, skimming the surface of a jagged rock before emerging on the other side. Behind them, the Korthan fleet scrambled to pursue, but the dense asteroid field slowed them down. Finally, the shuttle broke free of the field, entering open space. Jacob didn't waste a second. He activated the emergency thrusters, sending the ship hurtling away at maximum speed. The Korthan fleet shrank into the distance, their pursuit faltering as the shuttle disappeared into the void. Inside the cabin, everyone exhaled in relief, though the tension remained palpable. "We lost them," Rachel said softly, leaning back in her seat. For now, Jacob added, his tone cautious. But they'll be back. And next time, they won't stop until they get answers. Mia looked down at the portable drive in her lap, her expression troubled. What do we do when they come? We can't keep running forever. Jacob glanced at her in the rearview mirror. We prepare. If we use the Forge's technology wisely, we can build defenses strong enough to protect Earth, and maybe even earn some allies along the way. Rachel nodded slowly. It's risky, but it's our best shot. Humanity's greatest strength has always been adaptability. Maybe that's why the aliens kept coming to Eclipse 7 in the first place. Not because we're stronger, but because we find solutions no one else sees. Ethan shifted uncomfortably, guilt still lingering in his eyes. And what about me? After everything I've done, where do I fit in? Jacob turned to look at him, his expression firm but not unkind. You start by making things right. Help us protect what's left of Eclipse 7. Prove you're willing to fight for something bigger than yourself. Ethan swallowed hard but nodded. I will. I promise. As the shuttle sped through the darkness, the group fell silent, each lost in their own thoughts. They had survived. For now. But the road ahead was uncertain. The secrets of the Forge were theirs to guard, and with them came both opportunity and danger. Whatever lay ahead, one thing was clear. Humanity's future depended on the choices they made next. Far behind them, Shadowclaw watched the shuttle vanish into the stars, his glowing eyes filled with determination. This isn't over, he growled, turning to his crew. Find them, and bring me answers. The shuttle drifted silently through the vast emptiness of space, its damaged hull groaning faintly as it carried its weary passengers toward an uncertain future. Jacob sat in the pilot's seat, his hands resting lightly on the controls as he stared out at the endless sea of stars. Rachel leaned against the wall nearby, her arms crossed and her gaze distant. Maya fiddled with the portable drive, reviewing the data they'd salvaged from the Forge, while Ethan sat quietly in the corner, his guilt still weighing heavily on him. We should send a message to Earth, Rachel said finally, breaking the silence. They need to know what we've found, and what's coming. Jacob nodded, though his expression was grim. And what do we tell them? That we stumbled onto alien tech powerful enough to change the galaxy. That the Korthan are hunting us now. The truth, Rachel replied firmly. They deserve to know. If we don't warn them, Earth won't be ready when the Korthan show up. Mia looked up from the drive, her voice soft but steady. It's not just about Earth anymore. This technology could protect colonies across the galaxy, if we use it wisely. But that means making hard choices. Hard choices, Ethan echoed, his voice tinged with unease. Like what? Like deciding who gets help and who doesn't, Jacob said bluntly. We can't save everyone, not without risking everything. Rachel sighed, running a hand through her hair. Then we start small. Build defenses for Earth first. Once we're safe, we can think about helping others. Ethan hesitated, then spoke up cautiously. What if we reached out to other species? Maybe some would want to work with us instead of against us. Jacob raised an eyebrow, surprised by the suggestion. You think anyone would trust us after what we've done? They might, Maya said thoughtfully. If we show them we're using the Forge's power for good, not just for ourselves, they might see us as allies instead of threats. Rachel nodded slowly. It's worth a try, but first, we need to survive long enough to make that happen. As they discussed their next steps, the shuttle sensors picked up movement ahead, a faint signal blinking weakly in the darkness. Jacob adjusted the navigation panel, bringing the source into view. It was a small battered vessel, drifting aimlessly through space. Its design was unmistakably Krellak's. That's the ship from Eclipse 7, Mia whispered, recognition dawning on her face. The one we repaired. Jacob frowned, slowing the shuttle down. Why is it here? Did the Krulax survive the ambush? Rachel activated the communication system, hailing the vessel. After a moment, a shaky response crackled through the speakers. This is Captain Zixer of the Krulax fleet. We require assistance." Jacob exchanged a glance with Rachel, who gave him a slight nod. "We'll help," he said into the mic, "but you owe us answers." Moments later, the Krulax captain appeared on the screen, his exoskeleton cracked and scorched, his multifaceted eyes dimmed with exhaustion. "You have altered the forge," he rasped, surprising them all. "We detected the change and came to investigate." "How did you know about the forge?" Maya asked sharply. "It was not ours to control," Zixar admitted, "but we sought it as a refuge from those who hunt us. Now, perhaps it will serve as a shield for all who seek peace." Jacob leaned forward, his tone firm. "If we work together, we can protect each other. But trust has to go both ways." Zixar hesitated, then nodded. "Agreed. The Korthan grow stronger. Alone, none of us can stand against them." Back aboard the shuttle, the group felt a flicker of hope for the first time in days. They had made mistakes, faced betrayal, and narrowly escaped death, but they had also forged a fragile alliance. Humanity wasn't alone in this fight. As the two ships traveled side by side, Rachel glanced at Jacob, her lips curving into a small smile. "Maybe this is why the aliens kept coming to Eclipse 7. Not because we're stronger, but because we're willing to adapt, to find solutions no one else sees." Jacob returned her smile, though his eyes remained thoughtful. "Let's just hope that's enough." Far away, Shadowclaw's fleet continued its relentless pursuit, determined to uncover the secrets of the forge. But for now, humanity, and its newfound allies, had taken the first step toward survival. In the vastness of space, even the smallest spark of ingenuity could light the way forward.